Naomi Judd's life was never simple, even before she became a famous country music star. In 1979, she attended a music event in Nashville that would change her future. At the time, she was not yet a household name. She was working long hours as a nurse, raising her daughters Winona and Ashley as a single mother after a painful divorce. Life was very hard. She often worked night shifts just to pay the bills and provide for her family. But even with her difficult circumstances, Naomi never lost her deep love for music. That passion brought her to the event where she met Larry Strickland, the man who would later become her husband. Larry came from a different background. He was already working in the music world, singing gospel with J.D. Sumner and the Stamps Quartet. His career had even taken him on tour with Elvis Presley, where he sang backup for some of Elvis's legendary performances. Larry was no stranger to the challenges of life on the road, but he lived more quietly than Naomi. The two were very different in personality, yet their love for music created a bond. Naomi was energetic, passionate, and ambitious, while Larry was calm, steady, and loyal. These differences balanced them. After a decade of building their relationship, they married in 1989 in Nashville. By then, Naomi was already famous as one half of the Judds with her daughter Winona. They had won multiple Grammy Awards and reached the peak of country music. On the surface, Naomi seemed to be living the dream. But behind the stage lights, health problems and emotional struggles were beginning to grow. This was the start of a marriage filled with both love and hardship, a story that would remain hidden from the public for many years. As Naomi's music career with the Judds reached its height, her life became more complicated. The fame came with endless travel, heavy schedules, and constant pressure to perform. While fans saw a strong and beautiful star on stage, Naomi privately carried stress and exhaustion. In 1990, her world changed again when she was diagnosed with hepatitis C, a dangerous liver disease. The illness forced her to step away from performing at the peak of her career. Retiring from the Judds was heartbreaking for Naomi, who had worked so hard to reach success. It also created a new set of challenges for her marriage. Larry supported her during her illness, but the emotional toll weighed heavily on both of them. Naomi turned her focus to television, books, and health advocacy. She became active in raising awareness about hepatitis and other issues, but despite her success in new roles, she was still battling loneliness, fear, and insecurity. Her health struggles created tension at home. Naomi sometimes doubted her worth, worrying that she wasn't good enough for Larry or her family. These insecurities showed up in her personal journals, where she wrote about her fear of being abandoned or betrayed. Although Larry remained by her side, Naomi's past experiences, poverty, her parents' struggles, and her early divorce haunted her deeply. The more famous she became, the harder it was for her to keep up the image of strength while hiding her private pain. This constant battle between her public success and private suffering put pressure on her marriage, her relationships with her daughters, and her mental health. Behind the happy image of Naomi and Larry's marriage, cracks were forming. The couple often lived apart because Larry was still touring and Naomi was adjusting to life off the stage. This separation made her feel lonely and unsupported. At times, her emotions overwhelmed her. One shocking incident showed just how deep her struggles were. After Larry returned from a tour, he found their bedroom destroyed, wedding photos torn apart and his belongings thrown outside. Naomi had reached a breaking point, believing he might have betrayed her, even though Larry insisted he had not. For Larry, this moment was unforgettable. It revealed the depth of Naomi's emotional pain and fear of abandonment. He admitted that he often didn't know how to help her. At times, he stayed silent to avoid conflict, but that silence only added to the distance between them. For the public, Naomi was a strong mother, a successful artist, and a role model. But inside the family home, her mental health battles created chaos. Larry and her daughters saw a very different Naomi, one who struggled with fear, sadness, and emotional outbursts. Still, they kept these issues hidden from the world. For many years, the darker side of Naomi's marriage remained a secret. But eventually, the weight of these struggles would erupt in a way no one could have imagined, leading to one of the most shocking and dangerous moments in the Judd family's private life. To understand Naomi's struggles, it's important to look at her past. She grew up in Ashland, Kentucky, in deep poverty. Her childhood was filled with hardship, and her mother reportedly suffered from mental illness. This unstable environment left scars on Naomi from a young age. She learned to survive, but she didn't always learn how to feel secure or emotionally connected. By her early 20s, she was already a single mother raising Winona and Ashley on her own. Working night shifts as a nurse, she focused on survival and providing for her daughters. But this survival mode left little room for warmth or closeness. Both Ashley and Winona have spoken about how they felt emotionally distant from their mother. Ashley described her childhood as one where survival was the priority, not emotional bonding. Winona, despite performing with Naomi almost daily, also admitted that their relationship was complicated. They sang together and shared the stage, but she felt they weren't truly close. These family tensions became more visible as the Judds rose to fame. While the public saw a perfect family image, the reality was much harder. Long tours, pressure from the industry, and personal misunderstandings deepened the emotional cracks. Naomi wanted to give her daughters a better life, but the way she pushed forward sometimes left them feeling isolated. This lack of closeness, combined with Naomi's childhood wounds, made her fear of abandonment even stronger. Over time, these feelings didn't go away. They grew heavier, especially inside her marriage. The most shocking moment in Naomi and Larry's marriage came in the 1990s, during one of their lowest periods. While Larry was away, Naomi received a phone call from a woman claiming to be in love with him. The caller shared personal details and called him her soulmate. For Naomi, already struggling with fear of betrayal, this was devastating. When Larry returned home, he walked into chaos. Their wedding photos were destroyed, his belongings thrown outside, and Naomi was holding a gun. In her pain, she fired at him. The bullet did not hit, but the emotional damage was permanent. Larry chose not to call the police or make the incident public. Instead, he left the house for weeks. When Naomi apologized, they made a silent agreement to keep the event private. They wanted to protect their family, their careers, and their public image. For years, the secret remained hidden. A dramatized version of the event appeared in a 1995 TV movie, but the truth only came out decades later in a 2025 documentary where Larry finally admitted what really happened. He described the moment not as an act of hate, but as a cry for help from Naomi's deep pain. Forgiving her was not easy, but Larry chose to stay, fearing that leaving would only worsen her fear of abandonment. Although they reconciled, their marriage carried scars from that night. It was a turning point, showing just how serious Naomi's emotional struggles had become. From the early 2000s onward, Naomi's mental health became even harder to hide. She battled depression, anxiety, PTSD, and sleep disorders. Each of these was difficult alone, but together they created a storm of suffering. She underwent treatments, including hospital stays and even electroconvulsive therapy, to ease her severe depression. Despite these efforts, Naomi's condition worsened. Larry described years where she seemed lost, confused, and emotionally distant. She sometimes didn't recognize familiar faces and withdrew from her family. Video recordings from those years showed a different Naomi. Her eyes seemed vacant, her energy gone, her body thinner and weaker. While she still appeared at some public events, those close to her could see that she was fading. She carried the weight of her pain quietly, but it was clear that her battle was overwhelming. For Larry, watching her suffer was heartbreaking. He admitted that he sometimes failed to understand how deep her depression was and regretted not being gentler in those moments. Naomi's story during these years showed how mental illness can remain invisible to outsiders while destroying someone inside. Her suffering was long, silent, and devastating. In April 2022, Naomi made a sudden trip to Vienna, Austria. The reasons remain unclear, whether for rest, treatment, or simply escape. When she returned to Nashville, friends noticed she looked more tired and emotionally drained than ever. She was preparing for her induction into the Country Music Hall of Fame with Winona, but the joy of the moment didn't seem to reach her. On April 30th, 2022, one day before the ceremony, tragedy struck. Naomi took her own life at her Tennessee home. Her daughter Ashley was the one who found her and tried to comfort her in her final moments. The news shocked the world. The timing made it even more heartbreaking, just hours before the Hall of Fame honor she had waited years for. Despite the pain, the Judd family chose to continue with the induction ceremony, turning it into a powerful tribute. Winona gave an emotional speech about her mother's legacy and their complicated relationship. Larry, in contrast, stayed silent, grieving quietly. His silence was heavy with loss, showing his pain without words. The world mourned Naomi Judd, not just as a star, but as a woman who had fought for decades against invisible battles. Her passing also sparked larger conversations about mental health and the need for compassion. After Naomi's death, the reading of her will shocked many people. She left her estimated $25 million estate entirely to her husband Larry, excluding both Winona and Ashley. This decision led to questions about her relationships with her daughters. For fans, it was confusing. After years of seeing them perform together, how could she leave them out? Winona responded with grace, saying that her love for her mother mattered more than money. She emphasized healing and legacy over legal disputes. Ashley, however, spoke more openly about her complicated relationship with Naomi. Through her writings, she expressed feelings of abandonment and confusion, revealing how hard it was to grow up in such a fractured family. After Naomi's passing, private letters, journals, and even voicemails surfaced, showing her struggles with guilt, regret, and love for her daughters. These documents revealed a woman torn between deep affection and overwhelming pain. They showed the emotional complexity behind her decisions, including the will. For many, it was proof that fame and money cannot erase personal struggles and family wounds. 2 years after Naomi's death, Larry Strickland finally broke his silence. In a 2025 documentary and interviews, he revealed the darkest secret of their marriage, that Naomi once fired a gun at him. He explained it not as anger, but as a desperate act from a woman drowning in pain. His confession confirmed rumors that had been whispered for years. Larry also admitted his regrets, wishing he had been gentler, more understanding, and more supportive during her darkest times. He described the final years of Naomi's life as chaotic, exhausting, and heartbreaking. For over 13 years, he stayed close to her side, helping her through daily struggles. After her death, speaking out became his way of coping and honoring her memory. Today, Larry advocates for mental health awareness, hoping their story can help others. He wants people to understand that mental illness is not weakness, but a serious struggle that requires compassion. Naomi Judd's story is one of fame, love, pain, and tragedy, but it is also a reminder that behind even the brightest lights, there can be deep shadows. Through Larry's confession and his continued advocacy, her legacy now extends beyond music. It speaks to the importance of empathy, understanding, and breaking the silence around mental health. While much of Naomi Judd's story focuses on her private pain, it's impossible to forget her lasting influence on country music. Together with her daughter Winona, she formed the Judds in the early 1980s. Their unique sound, a blend of traditional Appalachian roots with modern storytelling, quickly won the hearts of fans across America. Songs like Mama He's Crazy and Love Can Build a Bridge became anthems for a generation. The duo earned 5 Grammy Awards, 9 Country Music Association Awards, and sold over 20 million records. But Naomi was more than a performer. She was a pioneer for women in country music. At a time when the industry was dominated by male voices, she and Winona showed that a mother-daughter duo could hold their own. Her stage presence, charisma, and natural storytelling brought a new kind of authenticity. Off the stage, Naomi's influence was just as powerful. She mentored younger artists and spoke openly about her struggles with illness and depression long before such conversations were common. By doing so, she broke barriers not only in music but also in how celebrities could use their platform to discuss real-life struggles. Even after her retirement from performing due to illness, her legacy continued through Winona's solo career, which carried the Judd family name forward. Naomi's songs are still played on radio stations today, reminding fans that her voice, energy, and honesty remain timeless. After her mother's passing, Winona Judd faced one of the hardest challenges of her life, continuing to perform without the woman who had been by her side for decades. At the Country Music Hall of Fame induction, she stood alone on stage, her voice breaking with grief as she spoke about her mother. That moment revealed the depth of her pain, but also her determination to honor Naomi's memory through music. Winona's career had always been closely tied to Naomi, but after 2022, she began to step into her own identity in a deeper way. She embarked on solo tours where she spoke openly about grief, resilience, and the lessons she learned from her mother. She admitted that their relationship had not been easy. They often argued, misunderstood each other, and struggled to connect emotionally. Yet Winona also recognized that Naomi had given her the gift of music and the strength to survive life's challenges. In interviews, she explained that performing helped her heal. Singing the old Judd songs became both painful and comforting. Fans supported her by showing up in large numbers, singing along, and sharing stories of how Naomi's music had touched their lives. Through this, Winona found new purpose, not only carrying on her mother's musical legacy, but also becoming a voice for others who had lost loved ones. Her journey is a reminder that healing is possible. Even after deep heartbreak, though it takes time, courage, and community support. Ashley Judd, Naomi's younger daughter, experienced her mother's struggles differently from Winona. As an actor,